Welcome back to Real Estate 101. I'm your host, Joe Terceira, and today we're going to continue our discussion on home insurance, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by Robert Atto of Atto Associates. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Joe, thank you for having me back again today.
So Robert, I want to start today's show, and I want to talk a little bit about some general stuff relating to home and condo insurance policies. So to begin, let's say somebody is doing a renovation in their home. Should they call their insurance company to let them know?
Well, here's a lot of things people don't realize because they're so excited when they get in their kitchen, they want to get their new kitchen in, and the last thing they think about maybe is to call their insurance company. But what they don't realize is that every policy contains a clause that they must advise their insurance company what's getting done. And not only that, it's important if you're doing extensive renovations, your house may be undervalued, you may have stuff stolen, new construction goods while the construction's going on, as well as they may be able to help you out with a contractor that you may want to use to make sure they're licensed, and as well point you out to the fact that you might have to reach the city for certain bylaws to make sure that's all taken care of in the construction phase. So yeah, it's fairly important. People should realize that it's not only the insurance company just wanting to know, it's important for them if something happens that they're covered, and that's what's most important.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about rental incomes or rental suites, basement apartments. Do you or should you call your insurance company to let them know that you have a tenant?
Here's the thing, a lot of people may be even a little embarrassed to admit sometimes they need, some extra dollars to help them out. Everybody does now and again, and if you have the place to rent, why not do it? Right. Quite simply though, you must advise your insurance company at all times. If they're not aware, they could possibly deny a claim if the tenant has a fire, or even if they don't, if the fire was in your own unit. So it's important, that you tell them. Most of the time, the extra additional cost on this is nominal, really. And the other thing people don't think of is that you can actually purchase some type of rental income. So if there is a loss, you'll still get that income even when your house is being rebuilt due to an insured loss.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, it's important for the client to realize that it's a nominal cost, and if they don't do it, they could lose everything. So it's very important, and it's not an expensive thing. So please, give your company a call.
All right. So one of our viewers actually had a question. He's going on vacation for 30 days, and he wants to know does he have to let his insurance company, or should he let his insurance company know? And does he still have coverage on his home?
Well, again, here's something that, it's a little known fact, but some people know. I mean, it's during the summer months normally, as long as you're going on vacation and you have every intent on returning to the home, there's really no need to call the insurance company. But there is a little provision in the policy which basically states that during the heating season that you must arrange for a competent person to come into your house. It's normally every 72 hours. It may vary from company to company. It's just to make sure the furnace is on so you don't have any possible freezing pipes or anything. But if you fail to do that, any loss could be declined as a result.
So if someone goes away and they're gone for a week and they don't let their insurance company know, and a fire happens because something went wrong on the furnace, you're saying the insurance companies can decline to pay?
Absolutely, they could definitely decline to pay, but it's important to know that you don't necessarily have to call them, but you have to be aware of the provisions in the policy. And the one I was stating is the majority of the one where it states that you must arrange for a competent person and to come into your house every 72 hours just to make sure the heating's on, that's all. Other than that, you don't have to do it, but some companies, I mean, maybe they have different clauses, but so it's always best to check with your insurance company before you go away and just let them know, and you'll be glad you did.
Right. Okay. So for people that are running a business out of their home, does the standard insurance policy protect or insure their home, or is that an extra coverage that they need?
Well, here again, here's another thing that a lot of people are doing more and more nowadays. Instead of going into the office, they're doing operating a business from the house. Obviously, it saves a lot of money and makes a lot of sense to people. But what you have to understand is there's an extra exposure to the insurance company. What that might be is people simply coming into your house as a business and they could trip or fall. The other thing you may want to consider is the liability of your business. I mean, it may seem incidental to you, but it's best to check with your broker. And a lot of the times, the companies offer home-based business extensions. Again, very low cost, and they're designed specifically for home-based business. On the same thought, what a lot of people don't consider as a business is daycare.
Right.
A lot of people, just to supplement their income, have 2 or 3 children babysitting at one time. They're at home anyways looking after their own child, so why not bring in a couple of kids and supplement your income? Again, this is a big additional exposure to the insurance company, but in most cases, they will not charge a lot of extra money. But the problem is if you fail to advise them and there's an injury, I mean, you could be opening yourself to potential lawsuit that you may not be able to afford.
Right.
So simply, it's most important for the client to be utmost with your broker up front. I mean, most of the times you're not going to see much additional cost, and you're going to be able to sleep at night. And quite simply, if you don't, you're going to be in trouble.
Right. So something else I want to talk about, it happens a lot, obviously. Let's say there's a thunderstorm and lightning and knocks down a tree that lands on your house. Does your standard home insurance policy cover that?
Absolutely. Your policy is designed to protect you for windstorm damage to your house and or your fence or maybe garage or attached property. What it doesn't cover if the tree falls and fails to impact a fence or a house, and that's where you're going to be borne with the cost. So another thing important to remember on that point, if your neighbor has a tree that's in poor condition, you might think he might be liable if the tree falls over. In fact, unless you advise him or even send him a letter in writing, he will not be liable. It's just an act of God, and so you'll be left with the costs and an insurance claim on your policy. So if you see a tree that's in bad shape, and just mention it to your neighbor, and it doesn't never hurt to put a letter in writing saying you might want to remove that tree.
Right. Okay, so we have another question here from one of our viewers. They had one of their neighbors in their condo above had a pipe burst, and they had damage to their unit. What should they do?
Well, yeah, here's another thing. A lot of people just think the condominium corporation is going to take care of it. But the first thing you really should do is call your insurance company. Just because a water leak happened upstairs to somebody else, it doesn't mean they're liable for it. It's just sometimes things happen. So it's important to don't wait to call your insurance company. Call them right away, and they'll take care of you.
So what about small claims, usually like under $1,000? Should they be reported to your insurance company?
It's funny, here's a question I get all the time. People are asking me, when should I put in, or should I put in this claim? The thing I'd like to say to them is you have to remember that your home policy is not a maintenance policy. Your home policy is designed to protect you against a major loss, a fire that could simply ruin you and your family. So remember that if you start to put in a number of small claims, insurance companies aren't as patient as they used to be, and you may find yourself without insurance at all. So if you simply can afford to take care of a situation, do so. Just remember that the policy is there designed to protect you against a major loss.
All right. So what about leaky foundations? Let's say someone has a basement that's leaking water into their basement. Does their standard insurance policy cover that?
Well, here's the thing that most people believe is covered, but isn't covered. Seepage through basement wall or foundation simply isn't covered. I mean, normally you can tell the difference between this and sewer backup because it's clear water,
right,
as opposed to dirty water.
Right.
So it's important to consider when you get into an older house that you keep your weeping tiles up to date. And also, more importantly, is that when you're looking at the landscape, that the landscape is designed to bring the water away from your house. This will prevent these type of losses from happening, as they're not going to be covered under your policy. So you should do your most to make sure that you prevent this type of loss from happening.
Right. And what about things like, let's say you have roots of trees growing underneath your home that damage your water main? Is that covered by insurance?
Well, The actual coverage for the root damaging the water main is not covered itself. If water backs up into your basement as a result, it's covered. A lot of people think the actual damage to the pipe is covered, and it isn't, and it can be fairly expensive to maintain. You have to probably call the city in and have them inspect it before you can go further. So when you're getting older trees, just try to do what you can do to try to make sure that you're not going to get any damage.
So for today's final question, I've got a fairly funny question, but very serious. It does happen. Let's say, for instance, squirrels somehow, find their way into your attic. It happens often. Is that covered by your home insurance policy if they cause considerable damage?
Well, funny enough, at this time of year, it's quite a common occurrence for people. You wouldn't think such a small animal could cause so much damage, but in respect, they do.
They do,
and
yeah.
they can. So, it's really important that you get up into your roof and make sure all the holes and openings into your attic or into your house at all are covered to make sure this doesn't happen to you, because quite simply, your insurance company will not provide you coverage for this. This is a maintenance part of your policy, and you need to do your best to make sure this does not happen to you.
All right, Rob. Thanks very much for coming on today's show. Looking forward to seeing you again next month.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be here today. Thank you for having me.
If anybody has any more questions or would like more information, they can get in contact with Atto and Associates. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Joe Terceira, and we'll see you next time.